One of the biggest gaps in the veteran cancer care isn't intent, it's design. When care is based on age alone, veterans with a higher risk can fall through the cracks. And for veterans, risk isn't abstract. It's tied to service, where we were sent to, and what we were exposed to while in service. Welcome back to the Veteran Cancer Talk. This is a space for honest conversations about cancer, care, and advocacy in the veteran community. My name is Casey. I am a Marine Corps veteran and a late-stage cancer survivor and the co-founder of Veteran Cancer Network. What we're doing here today isn't about bringing fear, but it is about understanding how the system works and where it doesn't. In this conversation, I want to talk through three things. First, why age-based screening becomes the default. Second, why that approach breaks down for veterans. And third, what veterans can do right now to advocate for themselves using risk and not age as the starting point. Before I go any further in this, I want to be clear about why this conversation really does matter. This isn't about blaming doctors, and it's not about pointing fingers at anyone, and it's definitely not about bringing on fear. It's about identifying patterns in the system that we can make real changes. When you hear the same stories from veterans in different states and different locations, and utilizing the different systems and their different situations, that usually is a sign that the system has a big issue. Age-based screening doesn't come out of nowhere. It's designed for the larger civilian population, using larger civilian averages. When you look at enough people, patterns start to emerge. So these guidelines were built around age brackets because they are the easiest to standardize. And for many civilians, that works really well. But here's the issue. Veterans don't always live on that average risk curve. Think about age-based screening like speed limits. Speed limits were designed for an average road, average conditions, and average drivers. But veterans aren't average and aren't always driving on an average road. Exposure changes the terrain, service changes the vehicle, risk changes how fast things can go wrong. When systems rely on averages, people outside those averages can get missed easily. This is where age-based systems start to show their limitations. Veterans carry different risk factors, service-related exposures, deployment histories, burn pits, chemicals, environmental hazards. Those exposure risks, they don't show up on an average chart. They don't fit neatly into civilian screening timelines. And yet, many of the screening pathways still rely heavily on age as the primary trigger for evaluation. When we talk about risk, we're not talking about guarantees here. Risk doesn't mean that you'll guarantee to get cancer or a serious illness. What it does mean is that the odds are different. Healthcare systems already understand these ideas exist in other areas. We screen smokers differently. We monitor family histories differently. We adjust care when risk is already known. The disconnect here isn't service-related exposure hasn't already been fully integrated into the same decision pathways. This isn't something theoretical for me. Before my diagnosis, I spent months trying to understand what was going on with my body. Nothing dramatic at first, just a lot of pain that wouldn't go away. But the system kept coming back with the same framework. Age, not risk, not exposure, not service history, none of it. When the system relies solely on age instead of risk, real people and real veterans feel the consequences. Falling through the cracks doesn't always look like denial. Sometimes it looks like delay. Let's wait and see. Come back if it gets worse, or maybe we'll monitor it. But time matters when you talk about cancer. Delays change outcomes. It can delay treatment options. And for families, those delays create confusion, fear, and a sense that something isn't adding up. This isn't about blaming providers. Most clinics are doing their very best within the system that they didn't design. The issue is that the screening pathways haven't really caught up to what we already know should take place. That exposure changes risk. So the question becomes, what do veterans do now? This isn't about demanding care. It's about reframing the conversation. Instead of leading with age, lead with risk. Talk about exposure, talk about service history, talk about what's changing within your body. Document every symptom you have. Bring someone with you to these appointments that can speak on your behalf if you don't recall what's going on. And ask questions that focus on risk, not timelines. Advocating for yourself doesn't mean being confrontational. You don't need to be the biggest voice in the room. It means being well informed. It means understanding how the system thinks and learning how to speak their language. One of the hardest parts about this conversation is realizing just how much responsibility gets pushed back onto the patient. Veterans shouldn't have to become experts just to be heard. But until the system fully catches up, understanding risk can help veterans protect themselves and their family. And that's just not fair. But it is reality. I will always be an advocate for veterans to understand the system, know your symptoms, and to advocate for yourself when you're dealing with any healthcare organization. And with that, this is the Veteran Cancer Talk, powered by the Veteran Cancer Network. And in the next conversation, we'll talk about exposure, burn pits, and how risk continues long after service ends. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next one.